Welcome to part 2 with Joseph Agg. This is Aha! A Human Among Humans is a wonderful human being. I'm with Joseph Agg. We will be discussing the story of Abraham. And we'll also be doing that next week. This week we're doing it. So what do you know about Abraham?
Abraham, as far as I know, he was a Mesopotamian.
Yeah.
He was from what they say is Iraq or Iraq.
It was called Sumer then.
Sumeria.
Yeah.
And so he was around that culture at that time. I think there's a lot of literature that can give us some insight, like Sumerian mythology and things like Numa Elish and that type of thing.
Yeah, they thought that, which is understandable. I could see this. I sit on my rooftop at night because it's so warm now, and I can feel the moon. And the moon's so big, and it feels like it's a force even. So they worship the moon, which makes sense. As the creator God, it's so much bigger than the planets.
Right, and it gives light.
Yeah, so
it gives the light.
And mysterious, and of course it pulls the tide. They wouldn't know it that way, but they could feel a pull even.
Yep.
It's a little scary.
You see it that way now.
It's a little scary to me even. So they worship the moon. They called it, of all things, Sin. S-I-N. As their creator God. There might have been a greater creator God beyond that. I think in Numa Elish, I think.
It's interesting.
So that was the society he was born into.
Right. That's his environment. That was his surroundings.
Yeah.
And so he was called, he seemed to be a very wealthy man, and he seemed to be a very well-known man, or at least a high-status man.
Yes, well said.
Yeah. And so he had servants, he had riches, and at some point in his life, God revealed himself as El Shaddai to him.
Well, beginning, actually, as you showed with it, El Shaddai, by the way, is a Hebrew word meaning, it's often translated as the Almighty or the Powerful One, but literally, which would give rabbis some challenge, Shad means female breast. And El means, among other things, power. We're going up like El Al. So it could be the power of and female breasts have a lot of power, especially if you're breastfed or you love holding and
affection.
Yes. Yeah. So there's great power, and it could well be that divinity was at least also female. There are books when God was a woman, I think by someone named Merlin Stone. And in earlier times, the magic and power of nature, of menstruating, of women giving birth, they didn't quite know how or why. That was the power. The blood, the birth, the nourishment. So calling divinity El Shaddai made a lot of sense. And it made it into the Hebrew Torah.
Yeah.
The word is there. It took a while for them to use it. In Exodus 6:3, when Moses is talking to God, and Moses asks, what's your name? Who shall I say who shall I tell the Hebrew slaves is sending me? He says, my name is Yahweh, or Ehyeh, Asher Ehyeh, which can mean I am who I am, or I'm becoming who I'm becoming, I'm growing. But Yahweh says, you might know this, to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, I was not known as Yahweh. I was known as
El Shaddai.
El Shaddai. So that's just wild possibility that the original divinity of Abraham, at least according to this source, priestly source, priests were writing this particular part of Exodus. According to them, Abraham, or his name was Abram at the beginning, was moved by the God or the power of my female breast.
Wow.
Which would make a lot of sense. He wanted a child. That was his big thing.
Mm-hmm.
I want a child.
Yeah.
And he couldn't have one. He married his half-sister.
Yeah.
Sarai. How could he make a child with his half-sister?
A little funny for us today.
Yes, it would be funny for him too. So, but he could feel her power.
Yeah.
She was. She might have been brought up as a goddess, because Abraham's father and her father were the same.
And she seemed to be very attractive to people.
Oh, she was one of the most. She was the first person in the Bible called beautiful to
Yeah.
see. Oh my!
Yeah.
And so she could have been brought up in one of the temples.
Yeah.
Did you know in the old time religion, we might like this more than we were willing to admit. You went to the temple with a sheep or a goat, and you gave it to the goddess, and she gave you a night to remember. She was skilled in the art of love, and she gave you a truly
Something I remember.
divine experience.
Wow.
And so that, you really could experience divinity in that way. When the men took over, they tried to stamp that religion out. Even Muhammad, and this is the year 600 AD, this is way over 1,000 years after Abraham, when he went back to Mecca and conquered it, he told some of his followers, go into the temple of the goddess and take the woman out. And they reported back, we can't find anyone, and he kept telling them, there is someone there, being new from experience. And they eventually found some goddess, and they pulled her out. So in the past, divinity was female, probably. And then we had the masculine revolutionary movement for us. So Abraham probably, although it says in the Torah that Abraham hears, and you know what he was, do you remember what he was called?
Who was
What
called?
the first call to Abraham said when he was called?
I forget.
He was called, just really literally out of the blue, go to the land I will show you.
Right.
Leave your home, your homeland, your father's house, and go to the land. Didn't even know where. Just like you, somebody's wandering for. And then I will make your name great. I will bless you. And he's told to be a blessing. What does that mean?
To be a blessing to all the nations.
Yes, there were to be a blessing. It doesn't even say to all nations. Be a blessing.
So what is a blessing?
Well, the blessing could make things fruitful. Like God even blessed the trees when he made them.
That's right.
And the animals and the fish. So a blessing could bring fruitfulness wherever you go. Maybe your very nature is, like the earth is a blessing. It's making blessings. In some ways,
To multiply.
yes, it's making beautiful fruits and us. So he was a force for making people in the land fruitful. And then it says that if anyone curses you, if anyone curses you, singular, I will curse them. Maybe he'd feel this power. Maybe just not being connected to him is a curse. Because you don't get the flow of the blessing. And then it says somewhat unbelievably, he hears these words. Through you, all peoples or clans or families on earth will be blessed. That's,
Because of you, he said.
yes, through you. Now that's a bit staggering. What would you make of that? Or what do you make of that?
I've always wondered, why Abraham? Why him? Why did God choose this man to bless the whole world like that? Why would he make him so fruitful and his seed so fruitful?
Yeah.
Out of anybody in the world at that time, I mean, it mentions many different people. It mentions Melchizedek, mentions so many different people, Kedorlaomer, all these kings. Why him? Why Abraham? Why Abram?
I have my own theories. I'll share. There's a little backstory, not much. One, it says that Terach begets Abram and his two brothers, Nahor and Haran.
Mm-hmm.
No mention of the woman.
Mm-hmm.
Zero. No mother mentioned. No wife mentioned. So I think that was a lonely place. A part of maybe the National Liberation Movement. You know, I shouldn't say, you know, the 10 generations before Abraham, there was a flood.
Yeah.
And everything, the whole earth was destroyed just
Right.
about. So after that, men stopped mentioning women. Noah's wife is just Noah's wife. So they might have been, I might be projecting, afraid of women. That power of the female. So
Because of what you mentioned. All the,
a way to keep that power under control is, I know this well. I won't look. I am not going to acknowledge your power. I am over and better than you. You don't even exist. Which many women have felt for centuries. So he was born. It says Terach begets him, just like God creates the universe alone. Of course, eventually in the Hebrew Bible, in Proverbs, you might know this. Proverbs says that Chokhmah, which means wisdom, is a female being, a divine being.
Like Solomon said.
And she says she was there at the creation of the universe, working side by side with Yahweh. She loved him and loved everything they did. What a new beginning. It's a rewriting of Torah, just like you guys are doing now. Just a new way of understanding it. They don't say we're rewriting it. They say this is what happened. So, but that was after Abram. So Abram, there's no mention of his mother in the story. None. And there is a mention of his brother, Haran. And Haran had 2 children, and he gave them names, female names. Milcah, which means queen, and Yishka, which means sea. And that was revolutionary. Women hadn't had names. And he had to pay for it. It says he died before the face of his father. And you could think that if you're dying before the face of your father could have had a lot to do with your dying. And the only hint we have is he gave his daughters names. And maybe that was so...
It was radical.
So radical, and Terach didn't want to tolerate that. Whether accidentally or purposely, he might have killed Haran. And then it says, Abram marries Sarai. We're not even told it's his half-sister.
Till later.
Till later.
Yeah.
Not at all. It's like a sneaky mystery. We don't really, wow. He marries Sarai, and his other brother, Nahor, marries Milcah, that his niece. So they all marry in the family, maybe to keep the secret of the murder in the family. And then and it says, now it notices women. and it says Sarai is barren. Now,
At
after
this
10 generations of men begetting, there's no child. Aha! Sure say la femme,
She's the
let's
important
blame it. What?
She's the important one.
Let's blame it on the woman. It says it twice. It's like rubbing it in. Sarai is barren, and then it says she has.
Because this is the problem, that she's barren.
Yeah, it's not Abram's.
Yeah.
And she has no child. Like
Yeah.
rubbing it in. And at this point, to answer your question, why Abram? This is, and he might be a wealthy person too, so used to good education, and it's so excruciatingly painful. You're no strangers to this, neither am I. That there's one poet, E. Cummings, who says, there's a hell of a universe next door. Let's go. And so if life is this unbearable, with, at least as I'm seeing it, a father who killed your brother, and maybe you're forced to marry your half-sister, who's maybe a powerful goddess herself, and there's no child, you don't feel like you're a man, that's an opening to look for another universe. This one isn't working for you. And so he's open to hearing, go to the land I will show you, which is some ways part of him. I want to get out of here. Someone help me out of here.
So he was being set up for this whole thing, in the lineage and.
Oh, you like to look at it that way. I look at it more from a human perspective. He was open to finding some power beyond humanity. He was stuck.
Right.
So he needs, okay, help me, someone. And he was able to get in touch with some, you could call it divine power or more than usual power, cosmic power. He was able to get in touch with that. And maybe that's always coming through, like the sun is always feeding us. You know, whatever you eat, drink.
You become that.
Made by the sun, though.
Yeah.
The greens or the hamburger, whatever you're into, all comes from sun power being...
The energy.
Yes. So he was able to get in touch with some more than human power. He didn't even know its name. It says Yahweh spoke, but he wasn't told, "Hi, I'm Yahweh." He just hears these words. He is in, you would understand this, I would. He was in such excruciating pain, so lost, so confused. And so he opens up and hears something speaking, or someone speaking. Go to the land I will show you. Leave your father's house. He's not even told where to go. I will bless you. I'll make your name great. It's almost like there's, whatever he's hearing are these deep desires inside him. Right? It could have been even him. If you're not into divinity, he wants to be great. He wants to be fruitful. And then maybe, this is a little hard for me, and he wants, if people are mean to him, if they curse him, curse them back. Although it says, that's in the singular. Whoever curses you.
Any person.
Yes, but the other promises are, I will bless you, be a blessing, all families on earth. And in some ways, we all want to be a blessing to everybody.
Right.
Yes?
Right.
We want to make a better world.
Want to be significant.
And spread it. So it's understandable, even if you're a psychologist and not into God, that he is getting this from some place in him But maybe if you are into religion, spirituality, within really is like the sun. There are powers in the world he could be in touch with. The power that makes trees fruitful, the earth fruitful, women fruitful, maybe like El Shaddai. So he hears this. So he was unique in, probably because, as you were saying, he was probably a wealthy man, so he was well educated, and so lost, he needed, like St. Francis was a wealthy son of a wealthy merchant. And one day, that wasn't for him at all. Got rid of all his garments, I think naked, and felt this call to go start a new world where brother sun and sister moon were all part of the same family. So Abraham, or Abram, as he was called, from my perspective, really contributes to him hearing this deep within desire, and more than within, the powers of the world or nature, or more than nature, to be fruitful and to multiply.
That's, I mean, on a psychological level, it makes it very human. Because if we believe that he was a person, right?
Yeah.
Then you'd have to say, well, that has to be psychological aspects to this. On a religious level, you mentioned, God wants to bless people. I believe that he wants to make people. It was the first command, Adam and Eve, be fruitful and multiply. So that's probably very good. And he created man. And I was having conversations with people today about the created order of male and female, and the created order of the home. Should the man be the leader of the household, or should it be a partnership, right? And my analysis of that was, well, because God created man, right? They here's what they say. They say, well, God created man first, so therefore, woman comes out of man, so man should have the supremacy over the woman. And I said, now consider this. Taking that logic, if the earth was created before man, and man was created out of the dust of the earth, taking that logic, does that work? Does that mean that the earth is greater than man because God put his image in man and put his breath in man?
Well, if you said the gnat was created before.
That was the one that the sage said, and it really hit me, because he says, why did God create man on the sixth day? To remind us that even the gnat, I may be paraphrasing here, but the gnat was created even before man was.
Because it should be humble.
We should be humble. And that humbles us. And so, taking that logic, it doesn't exactly work. And so, I see God being, the pattern of man and woman being one is far more humbling than saying that man has supremacy over the woman.
Right? It is something. Help.
Right? I mean, like, if you're saying that man has the authority, I was talking to somebody today who was very blatant about this, and very gung-ho about this, and I says, look.
Lots of luck finding a woman nowadays.
Oh, man, I think he's had one date in the last 2 years.
Yes, I think he's definitely...
I said, why do you want that job description, man?
Yeah.
You're putting yourself in between someone's relationship.
Because we're scared. Women are strong and we're scared. That's why.
It's like, I don't want to be under. I have to be over because I don't want to be under.
I can't. It's very. A woman is power. I had a friend when he was married to a good wife. So once there's children, she's the CEO. If you're lucky, you have a nice CEO.
Yeah.
So men have to try to fight for equality in some ways. So from your perspective, if there is this powerful, we could call it energy, force, being, beyond understanding, and it's growing the earth, right, as well as growing the galaxy and so on, and if it has a consciousness that beyond our understanding, it must be, then it too would want opportunities to grow the earth into a blessed community.
That's right.
And Abraham was was the prime opportunity for this cosmic power. Aha! Finally, there's someone who's ready for me and can handle it. So,
out of the Philip Novak book, he seems to talk a lot about, and even in the Houston book as well, the world's religions, and the other one as well, the world's wisdom. They both seem to talk about what is the distinctiveness of Judaism among the other faiths and other practices or other people, and it seems to be that it's very connected with your surroundings. It's very connected with the humanity around you. Very connected. It's not so much of a God who is. I mean, it's part of it because the God who is above all creation, because He created all things, but He's still part of.
Oh, He walks in the Garden of Eden.
Yeah.
Abraham's going to see God as soon as he gets to Canaan.
Right.
It
So
doesn't
Jacob.
It doesn't say what he sees, but he sees Yahweh.
Yeah.
Well, we're just about winding. Time flies when you're having fun. We have 45 seconds to say goodbye.
Okay.
If you want to say something to the audience,
Okay.
you can look at them too. If you
Sure. I just wanted to say that, we are never, as I said last week, we are never done. I'm probably never going to be done learning. My life journey can be very complicated.
Check the time.
Yeah, we have a few minutes, but
No,
I'm sorry, a few minutes.
10 seconds.
40, wow, okay. Never stop learning. Never stop learning. That's my message.
Thank you, Joseph Agg.